Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. What is your worst experience with a homeowners association? Part 3. During college, I was interning at a golf course in a neighborhood, and one morning I was cutting the greens, and while I was riding from hole to hole, I noticed a lot of vandalism. You could follow the joyride of destruction from hole to hole. The first green had a giant tear in it where someone had ran across it with a golf cart. The 150 marker had been run over on the second hole. The no cart path signs were destroyed on the fourth hole. This is also where I found a headlight for a golf cart. More on that later. On the 11th green, he had taken the flagstick and shook it back and forth while it was in the cup, causing the hole to become really big and breaking the flagstick. Just a lot of vandalism, nearly $1,000 in damages. Well, since I had found a golf cart headlight and it didn't match any of the course's carts, we knew it had to belong to someone in the neighborhood who owned a golf cart. We turned over the headlight to neighborhood security and they went around the neighborhood looking for the golf cart. Security comes back and tells us that they ended up finding the golf cart. The garage door was open and they noticed a muddy golf cart with a headlight missing. Bingo! Got him. Gonna sue him, right? That's what we've been talking about all morning, thinking that we're going to bag some 16-year-old kids. Wrong. The owner of the golf cart was hosting a bachelor's party the night of the incident. The driver of the golf cart just so happened to be a police officer in the county where the incident occurred. HOA decided not to press charges against the officer, and their logic behind it was they don't want to give the police department a reason not to respond to a call in the neighborhood. My superintendent was effing peed. If it was some teenager, they would have sued the kid for everything he was worth. If that same cop caught the teenager, he would have arrested him for it. Pretty effed up situation. The cop had to give my boss an apology and pay for all damages in order to not have charges pressed. A hurricane tore through my sister's subdivision a few years back. Her HOA fined her for having tree limbs and other debris in her yard only one day after the hurricane. It was like a $400 fine she had to pay in addition to fixing the damage on her house. They also fined a house in her neighborhood that had its roof torn off for some other insane reason. Fear does funny things to a person. Makes you insular. Makes you make anonymous phone calls about landscaping. Makes you pop the slat of your Venetian blind downward when you hear an idling engine because the car may park in front of your house on your street. What will people think if they drive by and see your neighbor's laundry drying on a line in the backyard? They'll think you're some kind of low-life immigrant by association. Can't have that now because you are a respectable person. Gotta keep things nice. Nice. Everything nice. A nice brick wall free from weeds. A nice lawn mown diagonally instead of parallel, for parallel is so last year. No work in the garage. That's for storing things, not making things, and certainly not fixing things. As a respectable person, you don't get your hands dirty. Fear the neighbor. Send a letter. Fear your property value when you know you'll die there. Fear that someone is out there enjoying life instead of trying to keep it lined up, tidy, regimented, compartmentalized, covered in plastic, and only brought out when nice people drop by to remark on how nice everything is. Keeping things nice. Not beautiful, for that would cause controversy. People would talk, and that's not nice. H isn't fire or ice or torture. H is a marching band of uptight a-holes with leaf blowers. My neighborhood growing up was part of a homeowners association, and it was pretty bad. Garage sales were to be held only on one weekend in the spring and in the fall. You couldn't do it any other time. You could have signs out in your yard saying who you were voting for, but that was only during election season. You couldn't have a boat, trailer, or an RV, even if it was in your backyard or hidden. This caused problems for my family since we owned a trailer. You couldn't have a shed unless its shingles matched the shingles of the house, and it had to be attached to the house. No exceptions. I thought this was dumb because sheds don't really decrease the value of homes too much, if at all. The shingles of your house had to be pre-approved by the HOA. And they made everyone get the same stupid, super cheap, ultra flammable shingles even when better ones were available on the market. After about 3 houses burned down in the span of about 5 years, only then did they decide it was time to allow people to get new shingles. Even the trees allowed were kind of dumb. Like, unless the tree was already on the property when the house was being built, you couldn't plant any tree you wanted. No, you had to plant an effing Bradford pear tree. For those of you who don't know what these are, they are the worst trees ever. When they blossom, it smells like a mix of rotting fish, chlorine, and S. No exaggeration, even Wikipedia says so. And they split in half if caught by any strong winds, ice, or lightning. But they grow quickly, which is why people like them, I suppose. The neighborhood looks progressively more and more barren every year. My brother had his Florida house professionally painted at a considerable expense. It looked great, except the Homeowners Association notified him that the color was not on the approved list and that he would need to repaint the entire house using one of the authorized colors or be sued by the association. Here's the kicker. In the end, the color he chose to avoid the suit was so close to one on the approved list that you basically couldn't tell them apart. It cost him many thousands to comply and avoid the legal hassles. I was house sitting for my parents and their subdivision had an HOA. I put the trash can out one morning for pickup, then went to work. I had errands to run after work, so I didn't get back to their place until almost midnight. When I got back, I put the empty trash can away. No big deal, right? Well, a few days later, my parents got a letter from the HOA. Apparently, some busybody didn't like that the empty trash can was left out for several hours after the garbage truck came. These people seriously need to get a life. I've lived in 4 HOA developments so far with both good and bad results. First development was fiscally irresponsible. Board was made up of realtors and retired federal employees. 2 of the wives wanted new landscaping at the gates every year. So annually, they would hire a firm to rip out the old and replant expensive bushes. They never let anything grow beyond 4 feet. Then would decide they hated the plantings and start the process again the next year at the tune of $50,000 annually. The community had 2 ponds, EPA-mandated catch basins with pumps that serviced the entire development sprinkler system. They sold the pumps off for $2,000, forcing the residents to connect to city water, would ET on residents for parking a plain Ford Ranger in the driveway, saying it was a commercial vehicle since it had commercial plates. Total power trips and dues went up 4 times in less than 5 years. The next development was well run and officially managed. Overall, a great neighborhood. HOA covered everything from snow removal, roof replacement, lawn service, clubhouse, 2 pools, indoor and out, tennis courts, etc., all for $265 a month. Current HOA is again well run and officially managed. Advice is do your homework before you move in. Ask for 5 years of prior budgets, walk the neighborhood, and ask the neighbors what they think of the development, area, board, etc. I was working for a commuter college on a project to improve their campus transportation. The college is situated smack in the middle of an upscale hillside California suburb, and the homeowners association that surrounds it often complains about the traffic from the school. We were interviewing the pres and VP of the HOA and pointed out that many students live quite close but can't get to the school anyway but driving because there are no sidewalks or adequate bike lanes. The HOA pres then got very angry and said some really stupid things about how bikers cause traffic and she doesn't trust pedestrians. I remember this quote clearly. "Every time I see a pedestrian on my street, I call the police immediately." I've heard of at least 4 different students being stopped and searched by the police on their walk to the school. One of them was repeatedly stopped 3 separate occasions as far as I know. I've seen the same woman at a few city meetings since, always acting like she's the most important person there and saying some ridiculously crazy/ignorant things. I ran into her in a Staples checkout line once too, and she was a complete B to the cashier. When I moved into my condo 4 years ago, my HOA started at $250 a month when I looked at it. 1 month after purchase, I got a letter from the HOA saying per the vote 6 months back, they were redoing the roofs and my HOA was increasing another $140 a month for 10 years. The walkthrough showed no issue with my roof. The condo paperwork mentioned nothing about this. The head of the association is one of my neighbors. When I asked him what this was, he said they were under no obligation to tell me when I was looking at the place just 1 month earlier. That's how the head of the HOA welcomed me to the neighborhood. Hi, pay us more. We don't have to tell you S. I'm now paying $450 a month for my HOA. No pool, clubhouse, nothing but plowing and any outside repairs. Oh, and 8 months later, he asked for my vote to be re-elected. He won. I don't live in an area with an HOA, but I've worked in one that simply blew my mind. Preface this to say that I'm an IT guy at a big lumberyard, and thus I end up working on side projects with either other guys from work or with my brother, who is a contractor. It's good money on the weekends or after hours, and it helps combat the effects of sitting on your A half of every day. So we get this job to renovate this very nice lady's basement that has suffered water damage from runoff caused by re-landscaping done by the HOA behind her home. They changed the landscaping of the park that is in between a circle of 12 houses, and the change in grade caused meltwater to fill her backyard and basement. They didn't have an engineer involved and had nobody to pass the blame to. We were being paid mostly by her insurance company, who was suing the HOA for causing the damage. It was amazing enough that the insurance company paid for her damages, as they usually try to say anything that comes from outside the house is an act of God, so they don't have to pay, and partially by her to do some extra upgrades. She got fined no less than 30 times in 4 days for the trades having various trucks, 3/4 tons and 1 tons, parked in front of her house or in her driveway while we were there doing work. She got fined for having lifts of drywall and or floorboards / trim flooring, insulation bundles, etc. dropped off in her driveway by our lumberyard because they should have been placed out of sight inside the garage. She got fined for having heavy machinery operating on the street. Our delivery trucks have a TAG on the back. It's a portable 3-wheeled forklift that attaches to the 3 and 5 ton trucks to make deliveries faster and easier. She got fined for having a garbage can in plain sight outside of garbage pickup day. We put a dump trailer on the right side of her driveway to facilitate quick and clean removal of any demolition and construction waste, and it was just new and shiny clean. My ultimate favorite was the table I set up in front of the garage doors in between the garbage trailer and the garage. I grabbed a couple boxes of Tim Hortons coffee and a couple dozen muffins and set it up on the table so anyone could have a coffee / snack while working and have a smoke break while outside, and she got fined for that being publicly viewable. Picnic in the front yard. She got fined for noise. We had a tile saw, a chop saw, and a compound miter saw outside in her garage to reduce the mess / dust inside and did all the cuts out there. We worked from 4 p.m. on a Friday until 10 p.m., then all day Saturday and Sunday. By Monday, it was just finishing carpenters and painting being done. She got fined for not cutting the grass over 3 of the days we were there on the weekend. We had her lawnmower trapped in the corner of the garage behind materials, but the nice little old lady who owned the house said, "F 'em, let them fine me for that too," when I offered to move everything so her husband could get the mower out to mow the lawn. She got fined for all sorts of BS purely because the C's on the HOA were at war with her for having the nerve to blame them for flooding her property and basement. I'd never ever live in an area with an HOA. My house, my property, my money. I'll run it how I want to. If you want to watch the part 2, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all the support and the likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.